It's rapid fire time. Are you ready for it?
Oh yeah, we went so quick. It's already rapid fire time.
I know. That's right. That's right. So let's start with this. What record does Notre Dame need to end up with at the end of the season for this to feel like a successful end after an 0-2 start?
For me, I think after starting 0-2, a successful season would look in the realms of kind of the 8-4 record. Maybe even 9-4 record after pulling off a bowl win. Obviously, you always want to end the season with a bowl win, but I think a regular season finale, I think that they should get 8 wins and then get their 9th win with the bowl game, and I would consider that a successful season. And I think if you want to get real particular, a super successful season would be hitting double-digit wins again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, if you can get to double-digit wins, then that does it. I think minimal. Like if you can get to 8-4 from where you are right now after starting off 0-2, if you can get to 8-4 in the regular season, and then you are in a bowl game and you end up with a 9-4 record, I think that would be pretty good because, I mean, BYU lost last week, but there are not going to be many games, I think, and I think you can say this after losing to Marshall. There are not going to be many games that you can look at on the schedule and go, that's a given. There just aren't too many at this point. And so I think if you get to 8-4 and you have a chance to win a bowl game at the end of the season, then you can feel pretty good about it. Now, because like we've got some people chiming in, 8 is realistic, 7 understandable, 6 there are big issues, and I would probably agree with what Stymie said.
Yeah, I
Right
like
there.
that assessment.
Yeah. 6 there are big issues, and they've got to be an above 500 team. I think like he's probably right. Even 7 at this point because BYU is not going to be a pushover, and then you've got Clemson and you've got USC. So those 3 right there, if you can't win 2 of those 3, then you're automatically looking at 7-5 at best, and that is assuming that you don't slip up again the rest of the way. So, again, because there are still enough issues with this team, and you're going to see a really good offense coming up this weekend. So I think you get to 8-4, go to a bowl game, you're feeling pretty good at the end of the season after the way it started.
Yeah, let me throw this question back at you. If would a USC, I haven't seen the new poll, but last time I saw last week they were ranked 7th already, which is kind of crazy. First of all, do you trade, assuming USC does what they're supposed to the rest of the season, will you trade a loss to Marshall for beating USC on the back end and what would be USC's kind of, this is their comeback year. This is a big year for them, and then I think I would trade that. I would trade beating USC because they're at home this year again. USC comes to South Bend. It's gonna be a big game, obviously.
No. It's in LA. It's in LA.
It's in LA. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got the Stanford mixed up. I think they always rotate.
Right.
So to go to USC, beat them, Lincoln Riley, all these transfers, they're highly ranked. I would trade that for the loss against Marshall. What about you?
In a heartbeat. Because then again, you can if you, especially, like if you're not talking about you're like a 500 team and you knock off USC at the end of no matter what though, if you finish the season beating USC, the regular season, you're feeling good, even if you did happen to be a 500 team. But, again, you Marshall is game 2, and then you've got everything building up to that. So right now, the mission of Marcus Freeman in this team is to prove that they can be better, a little bit better every week and build up to something at the end of the season. So no doubt about it. If you beat USC at the end of the season, it completely, now, not for everyone, it's not going to completely erase the sting of Marshall because then people are going to be saying, well, we beat USC. If we could have only beaten Marshall, we should have beaten, all that kind of stuff.
Growing pains.
You're absolutely right. But yeah, I think that I think you beat USC at this point.
And at least
like going into the season, that's not a trade-off that you would have taken. But where you are right now, you've already lost to Marshall. That's a definite trade-off that I would take.
Okay.
Do you agree?
No, yeah, I agree. I think it takes at least half of that Marshall sting away. No
Yeah.
matter like if you win, no matter what your final season record is, and you beat USC, I think it takes away half the sting of everything. And that's assuming USC is
Right.
ranked high, and there's some serious things on the line for them on the back end as well.
It's a nice balm to slap on it
Yeah.
at the end of the day. Little balm to slap on there. Fill in the blank. Since we're on the subject of Marshall losing to Bowling Green Saturday is blank.
Marshall losing to Bowling Green on Saturday is hilarious for a couple of reasons. I have a lot of friends that went to Bowling Green, and immediately I was getting calls because it was homecoming weekend down at Bowling Green. So a lot of my friends were there. I was immediately getting calls that Bowling Green is better than Notre Dame by, the transitive property. Marshall beat Notre Dame. Bowling Green beat Marshall. Therefore, Bowling Green is better than Notre Dame. So I thought it was kind of funny, especially last week we talked about like who does Marshall have left on their schedule that might be a hiccup. Definitely wasn't going to be Bowling Green in my opinion.
Brother.
So it's just quite comical, and of course it happens the week after Notre Dame loses to Marshall. So to me at this point, a Marshall loss is just even more inexcusable, and it kind of made that even more painful in my opinion.
And that's, like you say, it's hilarious. It's more embarrassing now when you look at it. The fact that because you're going, okay, coming out of it, all everyone wanted to talk about was the 24 transfers that Marshall had and all this stuff that Huff had put together. And he's, showing what a great coach he is and, all this different stuff. And then you flip it around and they lay a huge egg to Bowling Green the next week. They can't even keep it going one more week. And it really stings now if you're Notre Dame to say that that's the egg that you laid, and then you turn around the next week, you lay that egg, and then that team can't even go on and win the next week. I mean, it's like back to the Tyrone Willingham era, and I'm not, or Charlie Weiss or whoever, where it's like you're losing these games, and then the teams that knock you off aren't even proving themselves to be legitimate teams themselves. You're just losing these games to random teams. So, again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Now, if you're Marcus Freeman and you're Notre Dame, you have to show that that's not who we really were, that we had some issues when we played Marshall, but now they have to show that they can be a better team, a little bit better week after week as this season progresses. Because again, it's like, it's one thing if you're going to lose to Cincinnati last year, and then Cincinnati runs the table and goes to the college football playoff. And we were talking about last week, could Marshall be this year's Cincinnati? And the schedule sure seemed to set itself up like maybe that's what they exactly could be, but they're not. They're just another team, and that's what they turned out to be. So it's just, it stinks. It stinks.
Very stinky.
Yes. Does winning Saturday, wearing the green jerseys, Jesse, do you think that it ends the green jerseys are bad luck talk that we hear so much of?
It's crazy that this is even a conversation focal point, because I had a buddy text me right before the game and said, "Uh-oh, Notre Dame's wearing green. You know what that means? They're going to lose." And it's like, how do you even know about that? Like, you're not even a fan. I just can't believe that people associate green jerseys with losing. I'm hoping that it kind of cleared that air. It's never really about the jerseys themselves. Obviously, the players have to play and, all the other stuff. But I think it's cleared, or maybe made some people feel a little bit more easy that the green jerseys aren't bad luck, in fact, and that they are just jerseys. But yeah, I'm hoping that it calms some of this uneasiness about the green jerseys, because I love the green jerseys and I wish that they would wear them multiple times a season.
I do too. I wish that they would wear them at least once a season. It has been 4 years since they last wore the green jersey prior to Saturday. You had to go all the way back to senior day in 2018, almost 4 full years. But they've won 5 consecutive games wearing the green jerseys.
I never known how they were the best. And it's like, the main thing I think the issue is that they always, when they would wear them back, over the past few years, they would always use them in the big games. So they would
Right.
lose in the big games, and then it became controversial with the green, where the issue is just, no, it was a good opponent, and they wore the green jerseys just as like kind of like a promotional thing to get even more fans there because it was a big game.
Yeah, when you're in 2007 and you decide to break out the 1977 greens and you're playing USC, well, yeah, you're going to get railroaded wearing those greens. It's like you can wear all the green you want, but it's not going to be a good day. But like you go back to 2002 when they decided to bust them out against Boston College and they, laid a huge egg in that one. That was really the beginning of the end for Tyrone Willingham, even though it took a couple more seasons, obviously, but, things started to backslide at the end of that year. So 2018, they wore them against Florida State and won. 2016, they wore them against Army and San Antonio and won. 2015, they wore them in Boston at Fenway, Boston College, and won. 2011, they wore them against Maryland and won in Washington, D.C. Now, here's my question, because 2011, they had white jerseys but green numbers when they lost at Michigan, right?
Mm-hmm.
So does that count? Does that count as a green jersey game if they're wearing white with green numbers?
Primary color has to be green.
Okay, because I saw someone else do kind of an accounting of, here's all the games, here's the last however many games that they did it. Because remember in 2013, when they played in the Shamrock Series game down in Arlington, Arizona State, you and I were at that game. They were the all-white uniforms, some of the best Shamrock Series uniforms they've ever worn, with the gold helmet and the green outline of the Shamrock and all that stuff. But so it was white uniforms, gold numbers, but all the trim was in green as well, and they won that game because I saw someone count the 2011 loss at Michigan with white jerseys counting against the green tally. But if you count that, then you've also got to count the Shamrock Series in 2013 as a win, because even though they were white uniforms, the green was still really prominent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with that logic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're in on that. Yeah, I don't think you can count when they're wearing the white as the green. I'd like to see them. I think it would be cool if they, like for the road uniforms, if they just went to green all the time for the numbers. I think that would be a cooler look with what they're doing.
Yeah, you know how much I enjoy the green. If they can find a way to sprinkle in it as much as possible, I think that's the best way to go. And yeah, the green face mask with the nice gold helmet is always a good look.
We're good. 1992 Sugar Bowl, before your time, Jesse, but the Jerome Bettis game against the Florida Gators when they came out with the white uniforms and the green numbers. I love it. I love the green. I've said before, I wish they would just do it once a year. Do what they did against Cal. Going into a season, you pick a game that doesn't necessarily have a lot of juice otherwise, and you say, this is going to be the green jersey game, and everyone wears green. I think it's good. I love it.
I'd have to agree.
All right. NFL. Which 0-2 team has the most hope this season to turn it around? The Bengals, the Titans, the Raiders, the Panthers, or the Falcons?
To me, this quickly came down to two teams, and that's the Raiders and the Bengals. And I'm going to have to go with, I think the Raiders have a better chance. The Bengals lost to Mitch Trubisky and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they turn around and lost to Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys. Not great quarterbacks. Their offensive line still stinks. Burrow's getting sacked 6 to 7 times per game on average still this season in just 2 games. And the Raiders honestly lost 2 close games to 2 very good teams. They lost to the Chargers by 5 and then blew that lead against the Cardinals and lost in overtime. So I like the Raiders. I think they have a more formidable team. I like that, they have an offensive line. They have Devontae Adams. They have a good run game. Not to say that the Bengals don't have those things. I just think the Bengals' offensive line is still an issue, and you can't do a lot when you don't have an offensive line.
Well, they got to the Super Bowl without an offensive line last year.
Yeah,
so,
but Burrow to have his appendix taken out over the offseason. He had all different kinds of stuff. There's just when a quarterback got hit that many times and then he goes into the offseason and has a pretty serious surgery and then he's getting sacked 7 times per game the following season, it's just not good things. That's not winning football.
Yeah,
but the Bengals play in an easier division, so I think that's also has to be weighed into it because the Raiders play in a juggernaut of a division.
And that's the thing. The Raiders play in the toughest division of that group, and they also have Josh McDaniels as their head coach. And if they didn't have Josh McDaniels as their head coach, I would give them a lot more hope. But they have him, and I don't think he's a good head coach. He got another opportunity. We talked last week about being promoted to your level of incompetence, and I think Josh McDaniels has found his way back there. He was not a good head coach the first time in Denver, and I don't believe, just like most Bill Belichick assistants, I don't believe that it's going to work out for him. I think that there's a lot of talent. I like Derek Carr. I have no faith in Josh McDaniels. The Bengals, I think, are the best team, but like you said, like where they are, they're essentially where they were a year ago when they decided to draft Jamar Chase instead of an offensive lineman. They still have no offensive lineman. You've got one of the best young quarterbacks and best wide receivers in the best combination of those two in the NFL, but you still have no offensive line. The Titans are an interesting one to me. And
they're not good.
But they also play in the worst division of this group. I mean, we were sitting here, Vince and I, yesterday, ripping on Frank Reich, and I really question Frank Reich as a head coach, just based on the fact that he's found a way to lose to Jacksonville every year, no matter what he's got, no matter who his quarterback is. Granted, he's had these older quarterbacks at the end of their prime with Rivers and Ryan, but he also advocated for bringing in Carson Wentz. I give the Titans a chance just because they play in that division. They can beat, I guess you can't beat 500 anymore. They'll probably win that division with a 7-9 record. I like the Bengals out of that whole group just because I think it's more manageable for them and they've got the best collection of talent. You still got to figure out a way to protect Joe Burrow somehow, but that's who I like.
Somehow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think I saw they're going through it during the Cowboys game. I'm pretty sure that the Bengals had, of their starting Super Bowl offensive line, there's only one guy that remained the same. They replaced 4 guys, and they still have issues.
Yep. Here's a question for you. Would you rather have season tickets to your favorite team's games for the next 3 years or tickets to the next 3 Super Bowls? You can basically have season tickets to your favorite team's games for 3 years or Super Bowl tickets for the next 3 years.
I'm going to go with my favorite team for 3 years. That is, let's see here, 17-34. That's 51 games compared to 3 games. If my team isn't in the Super Bowl, I really don't like. I care, but I don't care. And so to say I could go to 51 Cowboys games over 3 Super Bowls that I might not care about, I think I'm taking the 51 games every day of the week.
Super Bowl tickets are hard to get, though. It's like you've never been to a Super Bowl. You've at least been to a Cowboys game before.
Yeah, I'll splurge that dough, though, when the Cowboys make it eventually. Then I can knock it both out.
Yeah, see, I lean toward the Super Bowl tickets because the resale for the Super Bowl tickets, because of how hard the Super Bowl tickets are to get, I figure I can go to one Super Bowl, so I can cross that off the bucket list. I can at least go to the Super Bowl once, and then I sell the next ones, the next 2 Super Bowls, and I've probably, I've made a pretty good chunk of money by selling those 2. But at the same time, it is attractive to have the season tickets because that's that's something that doesn't come along very often either. I think I lean toward the Super Bowl tickets though because of what I could get out of them on the back end.
Makes sense. You could go to one Super Bowl, sell the tickets, and then buy maybe a full season of regular season tickets for another team. So you could pull it off.
Like Salty says, season tickets, and it would be like one thing if we lived in Dallas and you were actually there, but that's a lot of travel to try to get there for all those games as well.
That's a lot of travel, and you got to, factor in you're probably not going to sit there the whole game without drinking one beer, having one hot dog, having
That's exactly
popcorn.
right.
So to buy all of that every game, it adds up.
That's exactly
Parking,
right.
there's a lot of other things that go into it.
Here's a quote from Peyton Manning. Quote, "I'm the offensive coordinator on my son's sixth grade football team. We got beat in OT on Saturday. A couple of my players asked me why I ran the ball so much in the red zone. I think coaching in my future is also out because hearing that from a couple of sixth graders was tough." End quote from Peyton Manning. So Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning is getting chirped at by his sixth grade team. Jess, you coached Little League Baseball over the summer. Did you get second guessed on your decisions by your Little League Baseball guys and girls?
Yeah, it was funny because I was coaching at the age 7 to 9, coach pitch. Not a lot of whole lot of talent quite yet, developing a lot of talent. But it's just it's funny because they will be like, well, why are we doing this? Or are you sure we want to do that? And I think the best question I got was I had another coach on my team. I've told you about him before. He wasn't a super nice guy, but not really all there baseball wise. Wasn't really super helpful of a coach. And one day I had a player come up to me. This was before practice, and he said, "Who's better, you or Coach David?" Was his name. And I said, "Well, what do you think? I like have you've seen us out here." And then he said, "Well, let's see." And then he threw me batting practice, and I launched this ball like into the street, probably like at least 250 feet away. And his jaw was dropped, and he said, "Yeah, I think you're better at this point." I said, "Well, you might want to start listening to what I have to say after I just tanked that ball all the way out there."
That's
Um,
right.
so it was all good fun, and I think that's going back to the Peyton Manning thing. It's just when something's not successful or something they're not successful right away, the immediate response is to kind of question them. I get what Peyton was doing. He didn't want to turn that ball over in the red zone. He just
That's
wanted to
right.
pound it in there. So it's all good fun. And I think that no matter what, especially at that kind of young of age, no matter what you do, everything's going to kind of be second guessed, and you just kind of have to roll with it, which I'm assuming that's exactly what Peyton did.
Doesn't matter what level of coaching you're at. It doesn't matter who you're coaching. You're always going to be second guessed by somebody. That is the name of the game. And even Peyton Manning found that out. I thought that was pretty funny. That Peyton Manning is out there getting second. Most of those guys probably don't even know who he is. They just see him as this big, tall drink of water out there coaching them. They have no idea probably that they're being coached by a Hall of Fame quarterback out there.
Speaking of, though, did you see the 30 for 30 with Eli, where he went to Penn State undercover,
I
and
did.
not
What
a
was
lot
it?
of people knew who he was?
What was it? Chad something?
Chad Powers.
Chad Powers. I just saw
And they
that
put
this
on this
afternoon.
makeup, and they did all this long-haired wig. He looked like he was like a throwback into the 70s.
He went to a walk-on tryout at Penn State University. And I'm wondering, like, it looked like the players didn't know who he was. I'm wondering,
I
like
was most
Did James Franklin know?
Yeah, so like they met beforehand. So James
Okay.
Franklin knew about it, but he was really the only person. I wanted to know, like, because there was a guy that was working out the quarterbacks the whole time, and I want to know if he genuinely didn't know it was Eli, because he kept making these comments about, wow, like, look at that. He's getting the ball out. Like, look at the footwork, look at the ball, like all this stuff. And it's like, did you really think just a walk-on showed up? It's like, and it wasn't like Eli was playing at an amateur level. He was going out
He
there
was
like,
zipping it.
yeah,
That's
he
right.
was zipping the thing. And so I would genuinely be curious of like who knew and who didn't, because I think it would be funny to get one over on some of those guys. It's like, how do
Yep.
you? To me, the Mannings, no matter what you do, like their face and nose is just like immediate giveaway, and their foreheads, like
That's
it's
true.
it's
They
pretty
showed a
easy to
profile.
recognize them.
They showed a profile of Eli, and he's got a much beakier nose. Let's put it that way than what I thought that he had. It was very distinct. That's for sure. All right. Well, that is going to do it for tonight. Appreciate you coming on and joining us here tonight. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, rate, review, all that great stuff. We'll have a mailbag show coming up tomorrow. Plenty more shows, of course, coming up across the rest of the week. Jesse will be back Thursday. And when he comes back Thursday, we'll talk about some specific Notre Dame, North Carolina stuff, things to look forward to in that Notre Dame North Carolina matchup. And of course, we've got IB Countdown to Kickoff Saturday morning. Vince and I will have it at 10 o'clock Saturday prior to Notre Dame and North Carolina. And it is a 3:30 kickoff this Saturday as well when Notre Dame travels to North Carolina.
Are they doing is Turn Back the Clock coming soon? Because that seems weird. They're going to start the game later and it's getting darker earlier, so it's going to be even darker during that game.
Yeah, we're like a month away from daylight saving time. So
all right.
I think it's because I can't remember if it's ABC or ESPN off the top of my head now. But yeah, so you basically
it's a road game. Okay.
Yeah. You got a different network involved. That's what that's all about.
All right,
Jess. Great stuff. I'll talk to you later this week.
Sounds good. See you guys on Thursday.
All right. Sounds good. IB Nation Sports Talk.